ASMR. Hey everybody, I thought today I would read some creepy Christmas ghost stories. A train will probably go by because that's just my luck. The bright light and the calm watchdog. I had an unusual visitor on Christmas Day, 2008. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't Santa Claus passing by my house in Bloomington, Indiana. The day started in typical fashion with the opening of gifts around the Christmas tree. I served an early Christmas dinner for friends and family, and everyone left by 5 p.m. except my sister and brother-in-law who were living with me. They were sleeping in a bedroom at the end of the hall with the door open. I went into my bedroom with my dog, Toby, and shut the door securely. I was just dozing off when I heard the latch on my bedroom door open. I waited several seconds for my sister or brother-in-law to ask me whatever it was that they came in to ask. But there was no other sound. It was almost 7 p.m., so my bedroom was pitch black. I had left lights on in the kitchen and the bathroom, and there were lots of Christmas lights in the living room. So the hallway would have been well lit. I would be able to see whoever was at the door just by lifting my head. I pushed the blankets down and lifted my head from the pillow. But just as I was about to be able to see who was in the doorway, an extremely bright light hit me right in the eyes. I shielded my eyes and yelled, "Turn out that effing light, you're blinding me." The light immediately disappeared and I heard the bedroom door latch close. My bedside light is a touch lamp, so I tapped on it and looked around the bedroom. There was no one in the bedroom except for me and Toby. Toby jumped off the bed and went to the door without any signs of alarm. At first I wasn't frightened because Toby is a Dutch Shepherd, well trained to be an excellent watchdog and proven personal protection dog. Since Toby was already up, I decided to go let him outside and see what sis or brother-in-law needed. When I went into the hallway, I could see both of them still in bed. I took Toby to the living room to let him outside. There was nobody there either. So, who had opened the bedroom door and turned a spotlight on my face? Like most people, the thoughts of loved ones are always close at hand during the holiday season. When I first went to lie down, I was thinking how happy I was that my small family had enjoyed a pleasant Christmas. But it would have been so much better off if my mother and brother had still been alive to share it with us. I would like to think it was my brother's spirit stopping by to say Merry Christmas. I still think of you too. I haven't been able to debunk this strange event or find any kind of rational explanation. I'm half afraid that my heart stopped during my sleep, and the light I saw was the bright light people report after a near-death experience. leave it to me to see the stairway to heaven and ruin my chance at eternal paradise by saying, "Turn out the effing light." I've made a mental note that if I ever see another bright light to clean up my language, just in case. The returned relative. It was Christmas time of 1995 or 96 at my aunt's house on a reservation in North Dakota. Some of my family was in the living room watching television. The kids were playing in the rooms or sleeping, and my uncle and aunt and I were sitting at the table putting a puzzle together. My cousin, who worked at a casino, would come home around midnight or 1 a.m. This particular night, as she pulled up and was walking towards the house, she looked in the window and saw me sitting at the table. My uncle was sitting across from me, and she saw someone standing to the left of me and someone standing in the corner. So she continued to walk into the house, thinking nothing of it. As we were sitting there talking, she looked at me and asked who was standing next to me a few minutes ago and who was in the corner. I told her no one, and she said, "Yeah, there was someone standing next to you. It looked like your mom, and she was playing with your hair." At this point in time, I had really long hair that I used to wear down all the time. She said this person was running her hand on my hair like a mother does to a child. It kind of freaked me out, being I was probably only 12 or 13 at the time. My cousin swears up and down that someone was standing over me, rubbing my head, and watching me put the puzzle together with my aunt and uncle, and that there was another person standing behind this person. We got around to thinking it was probably her mom she saw. She passed away on her birthday a week before Christmas in 1992. In my family, we consider our aunts and uncles to be just like our moms and dads. After thinking that it could have been her, it didn't scare me so much. However, we couldn't figure out who the person was standing in the corner. And always around Christmas time, something strange always happens, and we just think it's her visiting us. The haunted tree. My parents and I lived in a small home that was around 90 years old. The year would have been 1996. We lived there from the time I was 7 years old to the time I was 19. From the very day that we moved in, I felt that I was not alone. One year around Christmas time, I was having a friend spend the night. The heat had just shut off briefly, and she and I were sitting in the living room watching television when the temperature dropped substantially. As I rose to turn up the heat, the Christmas tree began to shake violently. Ornaments were falling off right and left, and she and I were terrified. We ran upstairs and lay down on my bed. My white cat curled up with us, and my door, was open slightly. When I gazed out into the dark hallway, I was horrified to see a tall white figure run down the hall. I turned to my friend, and she acknowledged that she had seen the exact same thing. She never spent the night ever again. The figure in the recliner. My mother, to whom I was very close, passed away in 1964 when I was 17 years old. I left home that year and moved to Ontario from Nova Scotia. In 1969, I met a girl whom I will call Karen, and we got married in March of 1970. In December of 1971, we were expecting our first child. We were living in a small 1.5 bedroom bungalow. There was a fireplace in the living room. My wife and I loved the fireplace, and we had it lit every evening. It was Christmas Eve, 1971, and we had just finished putting the gifts under the tree, and a nice fire gave off a beautiful glow. On the tree, one string of lights, which was supposed to flash, had stopped several days before. It was 5 minutes to midnight when the fireplace suddenly just about went out, and the string of lights started to flash, and then the other lights stopped flashing. My wife and I were sitting on the floor, and it had become very chilly in the room. I looked over to the lazy boy chair, and a figure was sitting there, my mother with a big, beautiful smile on her face. My wife, who had never met my mother, said she could see the same thing. This ghost never spoke, but just kept looking at me and my wife and smiling. At 12 midnight, the fire in the fireplace started up again, and the lights on the tree stopped flashing. And the other lights started flashing again. I looked over in the chair, and the ghost was gone. No matter what I did to those Christmas lights, they never flashed again. Last one. The ghostly Christmas choir. On Christmas Eve night, 1978, at about 3 a.m. in Klamath Falls, Oregon, I was suddenly awakened by a chorus singing. The house was new construction, miles from the nearest church. I strained to hear any words that I could understand, or a tune that I could identify. But I could not understand the language or the tune. I did get a feeling of angelic reverence and gladness of heart. This was truly a heavenly choir, lifting their voices on high, singing Hosanna in the highest in an unknown tongue, without the accompaniment of instruments. I examined the television, but it was turned off, as was the radio. I explored outside, but the singing was not heard outdoors. The way that countless male, female, and children's voices entwined together, the tonals going from operatic highs to the deepest bass voices in perfect harmony. It must have lasted about 10 minutes, but it was touching for an eternity. Okay, guys, that was the last story, so talk to you tomorrow.